Hey friends, are you unsure of what to say on social media or what to even send in your weekly emails? Well, what if creating content could be easy? Would you be looking for a shortcut to creating consistent content? Yes, consistent content, because you know consistency is key. Well, let me tell you, you are not alone when you feel like you're struggling on what to post or what to write in emails. And we know that you have that product part of your business down. But as you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that to get more people to your products, to buy your products, you need to create great content. Oh, I know. I keep saying content, and that's the dreaded C word. And we can't tell you how many product bosses tell us that they want to create great content for their audience and their customers, but they don't know what to say, or they are so busy they can't find the time, or they really, really, really don't want to be the face of their brand. Well, no worries, because that's exactly why we created a year of content. It is your shortcut to creating consistent content that resonates with your audience and brings more loyal customers who can't wait to buy your products. If you want to see how easy this is and how easy it is to create content for your audience and your customers, head to www.ayearofcontent.com.
Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we help product-based businesses grow their sales and improve their strategies.
Hey everyone, I want to introduce you to my co-host and biz bestie, Mina Kunlo-Sitep, an Amazon guru that has built a multi-six-figure product-based business.
And introducing the other half of the Product Boss, Jacqueline Snyder. She has helped launch and grow over 500 fashion apparel and accessory brands, even one of her own.
And together, we share our inventory of secret weapons that will help you dig deep and do the work it takes.
Are you ready? Let's build together.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Product Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Snyder, with my fellow female-founded co-host, Mina Kunlo-Sitep. Hey, Mina.
Hey, Jacqueline. That was like full alliteration and very confusing for a minute.
In my own brain as well. We're so excited to bring you this very special podcast episode. We are actually recording it live in our groups, but this is a Small Biz Founders episode where we are going to feature small business owners that we just think are doing amazing things in the world with their product-based businesses. And so without further ado, we're really excited to have on Kelly Kussman. She is the founder of Cayla Gray. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you guys for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're so excited. We've been able to work with you for the last year in our mastermind, which has been incredible. And if anyone's watching live, they can see her beautiful background that she hand painted that matches the aesthetic of Cayla Gray. But let's share with the audience what your business is, what you sell, and just a little bit more about it.
Okay, we're a luxury brand of clean fragrances. For me, what clean means is non-toxic, hypoallergenic, no parabens, phthalates, or anything that can harm you in our products. And we have 4 core scents in both perfumes and candles, and then we do quarterly scent releases as well.
Amazing. And is it handmade, manufactured?
Yes, handmade.
Handmade. Yep. Amazing. And you're out of Arizona. So just an incredible business that you created.
We've actually had the pleasure of meeting Kelly in person too. Mm-hmm. Whenever that was.
A fellow investor in light pink.
Yes, I was going to say just a couple months ago, but I have no idea. I actually don't know. Yeah. And it was awesome. And she actually had the event that we went to is the Light Pink investor dinner. And she had given everybody a gift of Cayla Gray and the perfumes. And it was amazing. We got to actually bring it back with us. And then we also have been sent stuff. So we actually are very spoiled when it comes to Kelly and sending us Cayla Gray stuff. But it's been amazing because we've actually got to meet her in person. So this is super exciting.
Yeah, it was so great to meet you guys. It was such a fun event too.
It was. I wish we had more time to just sit together quietly in a corner, but it's how it goes. So let's go back a little bit because you have incredible experience. Like that's one of the reasons we're so honored to work with you in our mastermind too, is just your background in the product space. So let our listeners know kind of, what you did before you became a full-time product boss.
Okay, I was actually, I live in Arizona now, but I was born and raised in Wisconsin. Went to high school there, went to college there, went to Marquette, and then University of Wisconsin. And then actually I landed my first job while I was going to school. And my first job was as an assistant buyer of fragrances. And I just it was my dream job, right? I mean, a college girl, being able to sell cosmetics and perfumes and all the fancy, cool, beautiful things. And I remember sitting in the fragrance closet and totally falling in love with the way that fragrances make memories tangible. I remember, do you guys remember the fragrance line called Demeter? No. Oh man, it was they had individual scent notes, and I remember we were thinking about bringing the line into all of our stores. And they had one called, it was just tomato. And I remember smelling the tomato, and it literally brought me back to my mom's garden growing up, and us leaving in the morning and then running around the woods and the streams and all of that stuff, and stealing tomatoes and snap peas off of her garden for lunch. And it literally brought me back to that moment. And so fragrance has always been super special because it was my first job in retail. But I have been, before I started my small business, I've been in retail for almost 20 years, kind of worked my way up the corporate ladder. So I was doing buying, was doing sourcing, procurement, financial planning, project management, production management, logistics, fulfillment, pretty much everything you could possibly think of. So it gave me a really well-rounded background in just business and especially retail in general.
I love that. I mean, it is so true. Memory takes you back. I remember the first time I smelled sandalwood, and it took me back, and I was like a kid again. It reminded me of my grandma, and I was like, what is the scent? But I didn't know what it was. So it's you only have the memory and you have the scent. But if you don't actually know what it is, it's just oh my gosh, what is the smell? And it was at a massage place, and they're like, oh, it's sandalwood. So now I actually can, select it out. So I think it is such a beautiful way to capture your memories. So yeah, that is such an awesome story. And I didn't realize there was a scent named tomato, which is funny and odd, but cool.
But cool, right?
Yeah.
We would all be intrigued to smell it. We'd all be like, what does it smell like? So I'm not sure. Can you mention the companies you worked for, or should we talk generally about it?
No, I totally can. Okay. So my first company that I worked for was a company called Carson Perry Scott. So they were a subsidiary of Saks Fifth Avenue. Okay. I think I was with them for over 10 years. And then moved over to, it was a grocery store chain, kind of local to the Midwest, Roundy Supermarkets. I was a category manager for them for their natural health and beauty
Must
segment.
Be a Wisconsin one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Wisconsin and Illinois. It was that's it.
Okay.
And then PetSmart, I actually moved for a job at PetSmart. That's where I spent the majority of my career. I moved to PetSmart for a job in Pets. Good Lord. I moved for a job at PetSmart in Arizona in 2010, actually. And so I was there until 2020. And it was a beautiful company to work for. The culture there and the leadership they're just phenomenal. And I gained so much experience just from being in that company alone. I was the senior director of sourcing and production. I created and stood up that entire team for the company the last 2 years that I was there, and loved every second of it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I think we, a lot of times you offer such great advice about it too, because as small business owners, a lot of times we don't have this kind of experience that you have working for these major retailers, and seeing what it looks like behind the scenes with more help, more, all the people that are probably underneath you that have micro sections of business to be responsible for versus we are handling all of the things. So I do love it. We'll refer to you sometimes when, people are worried about inventory or buying, and you were in charge of sourcing and production, and you're like, this is normal, or this is how we went about it. Because a lot of times I feel like we're scrambling in a different way as small businesses, or we think we have to do it because people are demanding it in a certain way. With Fair as that platform for wholesale, while it's awesome, it's also a totally different way of doing business, which is different than for bigger businesses, how business is conducted. So it's definitely a very good perspective that you have, which I love. I have friends from the fashion background, they've worked at Nike and Athleta and Gap since the beginning, right? And I remember having a conversation with one of my friends who was head senior director of fashion, I think for Gap, and she wanted to start her own clothing line. And we were talking about it, and I was there was so much she didn't know on the smaller basis, because when you're at a big business, you handle one part. You don't know the whole umbrella. And I've started so many startup brands that I know the whole umbrella from a small business perspective. So what would you say, how did you jump out of this amazing paying job and say, I'm going to just risk it all and go in and start my own business in fragrance?
Yeah, so it's always been a dream of mine to be an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur, so I got to watch him kind of do it, and see like how exciting it is to build something of your own and, create the culture that you really want, you've always wanted to have. And like, you can actually bring that to life. But it was scary, really, really scary to walk away from a paycheck and big bonuses and just, the security of that job. And so it wasn't until 2017 actually, that I suffered from a ruptured ectopic pregnancy and almost lost my life. And we lost our first baby as well. And then it happened again in 2018. And it was after those two moments that I realized, like, life is really short. What am I doing? Like, I need to go after my dreams. I've dreamt of building this business for decades, and I've just been too scared to do it because of the things you just mentioned, right? Like, I have a ton of experience in operations. Like, I can get a business up and running in no time, but new customer acquisition and like PR and accounting, like I had huge teams doing all of that work for me, to make sure that my businesses and my brands were successful. And so it was scary to take that leap, but it was really after those two moments for me that really shook me and kind of shook me to the core that I realized, like, what am I doing? I need to do this, and I'm smart enough to figure it out. And if I'm not, failing is okay as long as you learn from it. And so I decided to start Cayla Gray, and I named the company Cayla Gray, because that was going to be the name of our first baby. So I wanted to kind of honor the heartbreak by putting some beautiful things out into the world and pour my soul into a project that just meant the world to me. So yeah, started working on the business in 2019. I was still working full time. As I was working on, the business, I would work nights and weekends on Cayla Gray. So started working on it in 2019, launched on Black Friday of 2020, and was able to leave my full-time job in May of 2021. So almost coming up on a year now.
Wow. That's crazy when you put it in such a nutshell. I think one of the things that really stands out for you, is that you really have an ability, and I don't know if you learned this in the corporate world or the bigger businesses, but one of your superpowers is that you're a great connector. You really are such a great connector that you, as an entrepreneur even, that you are really resourceful in finding the people that you need to help you or mentor you or coach you or be friends with or whatever it is, And so is that something that's innate to you? Is that something that you learned before? Like, what would you say how would you say that skill set has helped you?
I think it's a mix of where I learned that. I think I'm pretty type A, a little bit controlling. Well, a little bit. I'm a lot of controlling, let's be real. So like for me, if like things are not being done efficiently, like it drives me insane. And if I don't know the answer to something, like why sit in that feeling of I don't know? Like, I'm going to go out and figure out who I need to talk to in order to get that answer. And also it was really ingrained in me, like when you're running massive dollar businesses, like you don't have time to think about something. You need to figure out what the solution is to every single problem. You need to go to your CEO and say, here's a problem that we're facing. Here's 15 solutions for you to choose from. What are you comfortable with me implementing? And so you needed to like be very quick, react very quickly. Like you can't sit in something for very long. And so there were so many times when, especially when I was building new huge teams and huge divisions within a large company, like I just needed to find the right people to figure out how to do things properly. And I didn't have time to waste to do that because every second that I wasted was money that was costing my company. So I think it was a little bit of both of, my type A craziness and, just not being able to not find the right connections. And I brought all of that to the small business, and immediately hired in the areas of my weakness, like immediately, because I knew that if I didn't, it was just going to slow me down. So I saved a lot of money in order to be able to hire immediately.
Yeah. And I'll say, and we've known you for a year, so we've known your story, but for anyone that's listening, we are so sorry for your loss, but your resilience is incredible. So like the story around your business and, bringing the baby's name into the company and just all of that, but your resilience too, right? Because so many of us just go about life continuing the way we've always gone, and something really big sometimes needs to happen to shake us, right? As like a wake up call or like a change. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's health, right? We ignore our health until our health really matters and it's on the line. And so your choices that you've made are obviously you're very resilient, and you're also very courageous in what you do. So I just want to affirm you on that before we move on.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I also don't think it's that you're A-type. I was thinking more so it's your leadership ability. That's something that I kind of envy about people is that they have this leadership ability. I think it clicked for me one time that somebody said, great leaders are ones that do their work through others, and I think that's you. Like that's 100%. Like you do what you do, and then you find others to do what they do, and so it's been an amazing thing to see you build a business and do it so quickly and do it in the way that you've wanted to do it. And I think everybody listening can see how clear she is with leading a team or leading, her brand or leading where she wants to go, and I think you've called it A-type, but I don't think that that's maybe what it is. I think it's just her leader.
Let's spin on it. I'm going to use that. That's better. It sounds much better.
Were you born a leader? Like I know A-type, we feel, some people are one way versus the other, but do you feel like you were born a leader, or was it something that you learned in the progression of you working for others?
I feel like it's in my personality. I mean, I was starting eBay businesses like in my teens, like I would buy like wholesale lots and break them into chunks and then sell them,
You're speaking my love language.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I love you so much. We could have made millions as teenagers together.
We could have made millions. Like it was just, so I think, and I would like, I just think it's always been in me, and for whatever reason, I just didn't have the foresight or the confidence to know that like this is where you're supposed to be. This is what your calling really is. So yeah, and a lot of people say I'm just like my dad. And he has extremely strong leadership abilities. And like, he's just incredible. So I take that as a huge honor.
Amazing. Did you have any entrepreneur? Was he an entrepreneur or?
Yes, he was an entrepreneur. Yeah.
That's right. So did he ever say like, don't do this, or he encouraged it?
He absolutely encouraged it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Because some of us, like Mina, comes from a family that wasn't entrepreneurs, and it was like assimilate. Yep. And my family were entrepreneurs, and they were like, try it. So it's interesting how we all find our paths to entrepreneurship, but then the support that we had growing up might look different, but we could still all do it.
Well, I think that honestly was the main reason I joined Product Boss, is because while my dad built his business, he built his business 30 years ago, right? And so like I can go to him about like exactly what you're saying, like leadership things we talk about, like morals and ethics, and like, what is your gut telling you to do? And like, talk to him about bigger picture strategy things. But I can't go to him about an Instagram ad. Like he's going to be like, I have no idea. Like we didn't do that when I was building my business. And all of my girlfriends, none of them are small business owners. And so I had to spend a lot of time networking within my community here in Arizona, and also reaching out to other small business owners just to kind of learn how to do things a little bit differently from corporate life. And the Product Boss Mastermind was a huge component of me, like really opening my eyes to how other small businesses operate, and like where I can take my strengths and kind of apply them, and where I was very quickly able to see my weaknesses within just like talking to everybody within the group. And so the Product Boss Mastermind was a huge blessing for me when I was starting, because I didn't know that many people.
Hey friends, are you unsure of what to say on social media or what to even send in your weekly emails? Well, what if creating content could be easy? Would you be looking for a shortcut to creating consistent content? Yes, consistent content, because consistency is key. Well, let me tell you, you are not alone when you feel like you're struggling on what to post or what to write in emails. And we know that you have that product part of your business down. But as you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that to get more people to your products, to buy your products, you need to create great content. Oh, I know. I keep saying content, and that's the dreaded C word. And we can't tell you how many product bosses tell us that they want to create great content for their audience and their customers, but they don't know what to say, or they are so busy they can't find the time, or they really, really, really don't want to be the face of their brand. Well, no worries, because that's exactly why we created a year of content. It is your shortcut to creating consistent content that resonates with your audience and brings more loyal customers who can't wait to buy your products. If you want to see how easy this is and how easy it is to create content for your audience and your customers, head to www.ayearofcontent.com. You joined the mastermind because you were qualified, right? Like you were already on fire. Like you started this business and it was doing really well. And we were like, whoa, we were seeing you on all different influencers were posting. And it's like, I knew you before I knew you. So what where do you sell now? So people are like, Cayla Gray, what was so you launched your brand and then did you just start selling direct to consumer, or what was your sales process like?
Yeah, I really wanted
plan?
to be 75% direct to consumer, 25% wholesale. And I really wanted to start very small with wholesale because it really can affect your margins if you don't grow it in the right way and you don't plan for that growth. And so the first year, my plan was 75 direct to consumer, 25% wholesale. And then, that'll shift a little bit more towards 50-50 over the next few years. So we're in over 100, I think we're at like 130 boutiques now across the country, smaller retailers. And, one thing that I want to continue to do is my seasonal launches. Like we only release that direct to consumer for anybody who purchases on our website for the first 30 days. And then I release it to the rest of the wholesale channels. And I do that, because I want my customers to be going to my channels directly in order to find the newest and funnest things. And also we create only small batch quantities in all of our limited edition. And so if we sell out, then, that's okay. I want to make sure that my customers have first pick at that. So that's kind of been my strategy when it comes to stores versus direct to consumer.
But I guess like the startup part, sorry, Mina, I want to dig a little deeper on this. The startup part, I was amazed at how quickly you got going, right? So you knew operations, like you said, but the fact that you basically hit 6 figures within your first year, there was something there, right? That a lot of people and people who are watching live are struggling with still to get to that 6 figures, even though they've been trying all the things. So what would you say was your path that you were able to execute? Like, I know you don't have a ton of products, but how do you think you were so successful so quickly?
I think it was twofold. One, really getting out there and marketing yourself. Like you are your best spokesperson. When I first started, I launched on Black Friday, and I didn't even tell my background or my story until like 2 months later. I didn't really think it was important. And coming from a corporate world, like we don't hear backgrounds of like all the brands that are in our shops. Like it's either a great product or like, sorry, like we're not interested. It's a very different world when it comes to small business. And I learned that extremely quickly. Like after, I think it was 60 days after I launched, I told my story, and the feedback I got from people and the connection that I made with people going through similar situations created like an instant connection between my brand and those customers. And so I spent a lot of time creating connections and kind of talking about like the why behind my brand. And it instantly created those connections that people felt good about purchasing my products. And I have kick-ass products. Like you have to make a really, really good product. My product is, better than a lot of the luxury brands out there. And so I think, it's both networking and really getting your story out there to anybody and everybody who's going to listen to you. Making sure you have a great product that, people are wanting to buy. And then the second piece was really, I tested everything. I tested an influencer campaign. I tested sending out, unpaid influencer boxes to people that I felt really resonated well with my brand. I tested PR for a couple of months. I tested, Instagram and Google ads for a couple of months. I tested different markets, different pop-ups to just see what worked for my brand. And then I really tried to capitalize on those opportunities that moved the needle. Every business is so different that there's not one way for everybody, right? Like, my business is completely different than a jewelry company that needs to do things totally differently. So I think until you test and learn, like you're just going to kind of be spinning your wheels a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. For all of you that are watching, you'll see Emily Tubes of Tubes & Co. come up and on our next interview. But I think that you two are very similar in the fact that you were very dialed in and hit the ground running, and you are willing to invest. So when we test and try, at the beginning, you have to be willing to try organic, paid, and partnership. And a lot of people don't do a mix of those. And they only want to test in one, or they're only willing to do something that they've been doing for a long time or something that they're comfortable with. And the people that end up doing very well, like you and Emily of Tubes & Co. will be after this, is that you've invested over and over in your business to make it more clear. Your branding is off the charts too. And your customer can, like you said, instantly say yes or instantly say no, and I think that is really beneficial when you're starting out, because it it's like a magnet, it either attracts or repels. The faster you can get to that, the better, because it's having the good product is everything around the product too. And if you have to kind of wait to get the feedback and realize that it's the wrong customer, or the pricing is wrong, or you're attracting the wrong people with your branding, everything around it, then it just took more time than really investing, going hard and doing, like I said, a mix of paid, organic, and partnership, and having a dialed in brand, you've pivoted very, very quickly, and even now, for example, we were talking, post call, you were saying that you were doing wholesale trade shows, right? And there was one that wasn't going well. Was it Atlanta or Dallas? I can't remember which one.
Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas. It was only on the first day, and you made certain tweaks immediately. And then, the next days were upticks. So it wasn't where, you just take action very quickly too. So can you tell us a little bit about, what you see on the roster for the things that you're going to be doing for Cayla Gray, and where you feel what you've liked and what you haven't liked?
Yeah. So I think, especially like launching a brand in 2020 during the pandemic was wild. So can't believe I decided to do it then, but nothing was stopping me. Like I was
you didn't plan on a pandemic?
I did not plan on it. I was going for it anyway. So, going through all of the ups and downs in 2020, and then all of the ups and downs in 2021, and now all of the ups and downs in 2022. Like you think 2022, like you're coming in with a bang and things are going to be great. And literally 2022, January, the balls in my roller balls were out of stock for like 6 weeks. And then a truck broke down, and I wasn't able to get glass vessels for like 7 weeks. And my launch that was supposed to be in the middle of January, it just wasn't going to happen. I literally launched today. That launch that was supposed to be in January, I launched today. And I think time is money, right? So I could have sat on it and stewed about it and been all upset about it, but it is what it is. Reality, it is what it is. You pivot, adjust, and move on. And I think for me, in all of the different things that I said that I had tested before, like testing using a PR firm, testing just organically, going out and talking to shop owners, every single time I would get a piece of feedback, I would pivot and adjust. An example would be on my packaging, because I'm a small business, I couldn't afford to purchase different packaging for every single scent. And so I have the same packaging across the board. But when you go and talk to retailers, you have to figure out a way to designate the different scents on their shelves. And so I literally would bring my entire product line and go talk to shop owners and say, what are the barriers to entry in your shop? What do you think about my product line? Give me some feedback. And so I created stickers, put them on the top of the packaging, and that's how we differentiated. I think for me, pivoting and learning quickly, if you sit on something for too long, you're wasting your time and you're wasting money. And so I go out and ask for feedback for anybody who will listen to me, and I take that feedback. And if it feels good in my gut, I'll implement it. I don't implement everything. I think, some advice is not always the best. But in your gut, what you're supposed to be doing and what you're not. And yeah, so that to me, that's what I've been doing, and, it's been working.
I love that. I mean, you're definitely, the feedback is where the fortune is, and the quicker you can get it, the better.
But it's asking for it, right? So many of us go into this world and we start a business and we don't want any feedback or coaching, or we want to do it the way we want to do it.
You have to filter that feedback. So the caveat there too.
Yeah, totally. But we're not even exposing ourselves. Like the fear of exposure and the fear of feedback. I went to fashion school, art school, and constructive criticism. I mean, you literally would stay up all night doing a project and had to put it on the wall. And then the entire class, including the instructors, would look at your project and break it down, right? And you had to listen and take that feedback. And that constructive criticism, I think, comes up in different ways. But for some of us, we haven't ever been we haven't done that. So it feels like criticism versus constructive and growth. So I think for everyone listening, it's the things that I hear Kelly sharing with us is, one, she put herself out there right away. She's who do I need to chat with? What support do I need? You paid for courses, you paid for masterminds, you're in other groups as well. You also networked, right? You found people. You went and talked to store owners. You were very precise, but you had a plan, and then you acted on that plan. And so if anyone feels like they don't have a plan, it's a good thing to just think through, okay, what do I want to do? You said 75% direct to consumer. 25% to wholesale. That doesn't mean it's like $1 million and you're breaking that down. It's just as you go, you're like, this is where I'm going to focus. My first $100, 75 is going to come direct to consumer, 25 is going to come from wholesale. And then you just progressively grew from there. So I just love everything that you've done to get to where you are in such a short time.
Yeah. And some actionable things for all of you that are listening, that's why I love in person. That's why I call it a boot camp. Like if you want to learn sales, you get your butt to an in-person thing because it will instantly teach you how to be a good salesperson because you get instant feedback from people, good or bad. And so it's not even like feedback where, you talk to a shop owner and they tell you exactly. It's you actually see visceral reactions to your product. So as customers come in, they're like, oh, not for me, or, oh, yes, for me. You decide if those people are your ideal customer or not. And it's like something that's super, super helpful. I think the thing that you did that was so successful too, was that you gauged their reaction and saw how much people connected with your story. And so like, let's say somebody walks into your booth, let's just call it, your brand booth, then it's like you realize very quickly that these people needed to understand why I created this, why I love fragrance so much, why they should buy it, and why they should connect with it. And then you move forward with that story. And telling your story is just a muscle. It really is. I know some people they're like, but what story do I need this, big story? And it's not true. You just need a connection point. And then you test that story. When I say test, you just practice speaking the words. And even when I hear you speak, you are so eloquent. And this is probably I've heard you tell your story a lot of times, and every time it moves me because you tell it in a certain way, and we saw you in person and you told your story too. And it's tied me forever to your brand, forever. And so I think that for all of you, if you could take that feedback as well of, it's a feedback, but also the connecting, figuring out what the connecting point is and getting so crystal, be like Kelly and
be like Kelly is our new phrase. But here's the thing. I bet a lot of people listening are like, but I haven't had something like that happen, and it's
it
hard
doesn't have to be like that.
No.
It doesn't. Go ahead.
Because everybody has a reason that they started their business.
Right.
That's your story. Like it's that simple. Like, had I not had, that happen, like I still have a reason I started my business because of my passion for my products and because I wanted to put healthier products out there for people. So there's a reason you started your business. So what is that? I mean, that's your story.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying that because we all have, and we connect with different people. So who do you want to connect with? So Kelly doesn't only have moms that have experienced loss that are buying from her. It's expanded past that. So different people. So exactly that. She's going to attract people that are like, I'm looking for clean fragrances that are beautifully packaged and that are good for me. Right. And that's another subsect of her customer base. So as long as you are figuring out what's important, what your story is in your business, and that you can share it, and you share it repeatedly, my friends. We do not just share it one time.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to tell you the story today and then never tell it to you again. But hopefully you found this somewhere on the World Wide Web.
Tomato story. I'll never eat a tomato again without thinking of you.
I'm going to find that and send it to you.
Okay.
It's good. It is. It's good.
Are you holding a box cutter?
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. Was that on camera?
I was like, what is she holding? And I was like, you're a product boss when?
So I think that if everybody thinks that their story has to be, traumatic or scary or huge or, life changing, it doesn't have to be that big. Even the connection of that was such a beautiful story, right? The smelling the tomato, it transported you back to the memory of being in your mom's garden and picking the tomatoes and the other vegetables and everything, or fruit. I mean, whatever a tomato is, okay?
She's like, I think people grow things outside, but I have no idea. They come from the grocery store, no?
Fruit is a vegetable, But what I'm saying is that it's just being able to relay a story, right? So not Kelly doesn't have one story and it's her story. She has many stories because we as humans are complicated. We have layers of stories and multiple reasons why we start businesses. So that's why I want you to think of like when you tell a story, it's a muscle because you're not telling it in the same way a lot of times, or you're not telling the exact same story. It's your journey, that's why business and your life are so blended. And I think that you articulate that in such a great way, and you capture people that way. So I want people to start thinking about that feedback that when, are you excited to tell that story? And if you're not, then it might be a different story. Or, it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be, it just has to be relatable in a way where somebody resonates with it and they're like, oh, I get it,
Yeah.
So a couple things that I want to say. If Kelly's story has resonated with you all, we're going to share how you can buy from her, but send her a message over at Cayla Gray on Instagram. We'll put the link in the show notes. Also, if you want to share your story with us, send us a DM over on Instagram. So go follow at The Product Boss on Instagram and send us a message with your DM, with your story. Or when we post this episode, leave it in the comments. So I want to wrap it with Kelly, with you sharing a piece of business advice for other fellow small biz founders.
I would say try everything once, and like for me, the biggest piece of business advice is it's test and learn, test and pivot. I'll give things 90 days to kind of see whether or not they work out for you, and if they don't, pivot and move on to something else. So that's my biggest advice: is don't be afraid to try something. Failure is a bad word out there, but it's not a bad word. It's just knowledge, right? It's just knowledge and power that can help you make different decisions the next time around.
So good. So share with our audience how they can support you, buy from you, and follow you.
So my website is caylagray.com, which is CAYLAGRAY.com. And then on Instagram, we're at Cayla Gray Co. And then me personally, it's Kelly_Ward_Kussman.
Oh, wow.
I know. Sorry about that. I'll have to put that in the show notes as well, because you're not going to remember that. But those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Amazing. And make sure to, if you align with the story, support the small biz and small biz founder. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. This was just such a delight. And thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me, ladies.
Thank you for being here and listening all the way through the Product Boss podcast. If you love our show and it has helped you in any way in your business, would you mind doing 2 things for us? Subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review. Reviews help other product entrepreneurs know that this is the place to be to grow their businesses and realize that they're not alone. And we know that you all know that a 5-star and honest review helps you sell more products to more people. So you know that your reviews help us reach more listeners around the world. Remember, what we give is what we receive, and we are all about helping each other in the Product Boss community. We are all in this together. We would be so appreciative of you if you could take the time right now to subscribe, leave a review, and even share this episode on social or someone you know, so we can impact more lives. And remember, subscribing means that you will get notified each time we release a new episode, so you never miss a thing. You have helped us grow and climb into the top 10 of all marketing podcasts, and together we can keep climbing. Thank you, friends. And remember, there is room at the top for all of us. This episode is brought to you by the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge and Small Business Shopping Directory. It's a commitment to make 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business online or offline. So head to shop1in5.com to take the pledge. And friend, while you are there, check out and shop from hundreds of small businesses in the Small Business Shopping Directory. It's the go-to directory to discover, support, and shop small businesses all in one place. Head to shop1in5.com.